With just a handful of additional ingredients and 4 short hours in the slow cooker, you too can make soup out of 3-minute tortellini. But why?
Oh,
The best slow cooker cookbook ever by Natalie Haughton. Tortellini and vegetable soup.
the recipe selected for me this week comes from the Best Slow Cooker Cookbook Ever from 1995. I was pretty shocked when I checked the copyright date on this. I would have thought that it was from the 70s, 80s at the latest, but no, 1995. I don't know what makes it the best slow cooker cookbook ever. The book has all kinds of recipes in it, and flipping through it, I think there's quite a few in here that don't really have anything to do with slow cookers. I don't know why they're in here. Today's recipe is one like that, tortellini and vegetable soup. Having it cook in a slow cooker over 3 or 4 hours and risk the pasta just turning to mush, which it says right in the recipe is a danger, just seems strange to me. But that's the recipe that came up, so that's what we're going to make. Let's run through the ingredients right quick. First off, we have just under a quart of vegetable broth. The recipe called for a couple of cans. I went ahead and used Better Than Bouillon and just made up the equivalent. We've got 1 medium leek, just the tender green and the white. It was thoroughly rinsed and chopped. We've got about 2 cups of chopped zucchini. We've got 1 red bell pepper chopped. We've got about a 1/4 cup of chopped fresh basil. We've got a can of corn that's been drained. We've got a can of peeled and chopped tomatoes. We've got several cloves of garlic that's been run through my garlic press, as well as a little bit of garlic pepper. And finally, we've got a carton of fresh cheese tortellini. The preparation couldn't be simpler. We just dump it all into the slow cooker. There we are, all dumped in, all stirred up. It looks pretty, very colorful. It's going to go into the slow cooker for 3.5 to 4 hours on high. I'm doubtful it can go even that long, so I'm going to start checking it about 2 hours in, see how it is. The slow cooker's been going for 2.5 hours. I started checking the tortellini 2 hours in because the recipe was very clear that we didn't want them to overcook. So I started tasting them at 2 hours and it was still a little bit tough. And then at 2.5 hours, it was already soft and starting to fall apart. You can see here in the pot that they're starting to come undone and they are kind of mushy. Had I let them go the 3.5 hours, I'm sure that they would have just totally disintegrated. The soup does smell good, I'll give it that. The herbs are fresh. I can really smell the aroma of the vegetables coming off of the soup. Let's go ahead and put some into a bowl. Here's some of the tortellini that's falling apart. I just put that right on top so you can see it better. It also tells us to put some grated Parmesan cheese over the top. So I've got some here. And there we go. Tortellini and vegetable soup out of the slow cooker. The juices from the tomatoes are the most prevalent flavor in the broth. I think with more time in the slow cooker, some of the other vegetables would have melded their flavors in as well. The corn is still a little crunchy. The leeks still have their texture. They've broken down a little bit, getting a little bit of crunch from the red pepper. The vegetables are coming through nice and strong. Their flavor hasn't muted at all. Now some tortellini. Yeah, it tastes good. The cheese is still intact in that one, but the pasta itself has really started to break down. It's a good soup. I'm going to finish it. Don't get me wrong there. But this is something that I could have prepared just in a regular pan on the stove in 20 minutes, half hour tops. There's no advantages to making this in a slow cooker, and there are drawbacks. It's so easy to overcook the pasta. Perhaps if the recipe had said cook the soup for 4 hours or 6 hours or even longer, I think the vegetables in here could have stood up to a much longer cooking. and then put the tortellini in at the very end, it would be a whole different story. This one recipe has made me reconsider having the entire cookbook on my shelf. The space on my shelf is limited, and there's more cookbooks coming in, so I really have to be particular about what makes the cut. I'm not going to throw this one out, not like I did with the Heart Healthy New Mexican Recipe Cookbook. There was no redeeming qualities about that book whatsoever. Somebody can find it useful flipping through for ideas on how to use their slow cooker if it's an appliance that they use a lot or they're wanting to use it more. I think I'll donate this book to the closest free little library and save some space on my shelf for some more interesting and worthwhile books. And I do like the tortellini soup with the vegetables. Just next time I make this, I'm going to do it just on the stove in about 20 minutes. Thanks for joining me, making recipes that come up on the random number generator. If you like this concept, please subscribe. There's plenty more videos to come. I've got lots of books and lots of random numbers to help me pick recipes from them. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.